Hey, what's up? Welcome to We Are Still Kids, the podcast about adulting and where failure is a beautiful, beautiful lesson. My name is Drew.
And I'm Danielle, and if you're new here, welcome.
Welcome. This is our fifth episode? Fifth episode. Wow, damn.
5 weeks we've been doing this.
We've been doing this for 5 weeks. And
technically 6 because we took a break.
Technically 6 because we did take a break. Hopefully a lot of you have liked and subscribed. How many subscribers are we at right now?
I think we're at 46 at the moment, or unique listeners it's called.
Yes.
And we need 50, so to get over that threshold.
Once we get to 50, we can start doing like really crazy things. Not really crazy. Well, no, we could start doing like really crazy things.
We would have that revenue to start like leveling up, if that makes sense. Yes.
We want to thank everybody who is already subscribing, who's already a unique listener. And at the end of today's episode, we might have like a really cool little question for you guys as like an audience about something that you might be interested in, and some content that we might make on the side to expand this media empire that we're doing.
Absolutely. So, and I want you guys to really engage. I feel like we're not getting enough engagement, like comments. Really tell us how you like it. Tell us if you don't like it. Tell us what what we can do better. Yes. And anything that you want to hear, let us know in the comments.
From those who have really given us a lot of good feedback. We know there are some technical things that we are always improving on. So and it's great because you guys will get to see that happening as like time goes on.
I mean, we already have evolved so much from like the first episode.
Oh yeah, our first episode was in my grandmother's guest room, and it was like a space that was like this big, and now like here we are like in this wonderful living room. Yes. We're filming this from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the city of brotherly and sisterly love.
Yeah, if you're new here, we knew each other from high school, and we're from New Jersey originally. And he's a big boy and moved out on his own and with his awesome girlfriend.
Yes. Shout out to Christy.
Yeah, they're letting us use this space, which is really cool.
She's dope. If you notice, so usually on our podcast, at least the last 2 podcasts, we were like celebratorily drinking and everything like that because we had just it's exciting, you know what I mean? But the reason why we're not is actually part of the question for the end of the podcast, and we're going to bring that up to you guys. So
that, and we just need to take a break.
Yeah, we do. It was my girlfriend's birthday, and on Monday, happy birthday to her, and we went out the Friday before. I think after we filmed our last podcast episode, and shit got crazy.
It was just crazy.
Yeah,
I'm just too old. It took me like 4 days to recoup.
Don't listen to her. She's fine. She just
genuinely I'm like such an extroverted introvert. Like, bro, when I have too much,
that is the most oxymoron thing that I've ever heard.
But it's so true. Like, I am an introvert, but I am able to be extroverted if I need to. But it does take more energy out of me. So like, if I go out and like have a lot of like interaction with people and socialization and stuff, it takes me so much longer to recuperate.
Yeah, I think that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to being an adult, right? Like we just get I think the assumption when you are like growing up is, oh yeah, when I'm an adult, I'm gonna freaking go off. Like, yeah, like I'm gonna turn 21.
And
then what happens is you do that for about like a good
4 years maybe.
I was like 3. I think I cut 1 year short. I was just like, all right, what's going on? But that's because like I was going like real in the 3rd year. I mean, we were Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. I mean, it got dark. Okay, like it got to the point where it was like juice and chase just do nothing for me now.
Oh my god.
Give me a gin martini.
Oh my god.
Dirty. People were like, how old are you? 35? I'm 23. Like I was literally just.
I think by 24 I was done.
Yeah, no. I mean, listen, like I'll do a lot of crazy shit as an adult, especially when you have your own place. You can definitely do a lot of crazy shit as an adult. Mm-hmm. Drinking to the point of like absolute like chaos.
Belligerence, yeah.
Belligerence out though, because I'm fine if it's like in my house. Like I'll be in my house, but at least the bed's right upstairs. the sofa's right here. Like I can.
Yeah, we were wilding on Friday.
We went out. That's the thing. Like we went out during a war in Europe. We get my son. Yeah. We went out. And it got to the point where like the old Danielle apparently almost came out.
Yeah, that was bad.
Almost. She was like
she does not make an appearance very often.
She was one sip away from coming out. The old Drew like definitely came out because I don't mean to be not a mean person, but I think sometimes when I drink, like I've gotten this definitely from my girlfriend. The peer pressure kind of comes out, and I bring out like the worst
influence ever.
I'm great when I go out. But like, listen, it was a fishbowl that did us dirty, to be completely honest with you. We thought it was the shots. It was definitely a fishbowl.
The guy said, I don't want to make it for you because it takes a long time to, like, people milk it. It takes a long time to drink, and we finished that fishbowl in 10 minutes.
Well, first of all, the both of us sat there and said, because we were also with my girlfriend and her friend Hannah, and but we were the ones that were like, yo, like, it's a fishbowl, like, yeah. Because that's what happens, I guess, when you're from New Jersey.
And like, his girlfriend and her friend Hannah, they were like already really drunk, so they did not partake in this fishbowl.
Oh yeah, like we on the other hand were like, yeah, we're from fucking Jackson, land of the house parties and the fucking
and
farmland.
we were just like competitive, so like this guy was like, you can't finish it.
We finished the fishbowl.
He knew what he was doing
collectively in like 10 minutes. He egged us on.
He knew what he was doing. He said we couldn't do it, so me and Drew were like, I think not.
I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong, buddy. Mind you, this fishbowl was like tequila and white wine.
Ounces.
And it was delicious.
He said it was 64 ounces.
Yeah, he said it was like 8 drinks.
Is that 64 ounces? I don't know.
Yeah, he says like 8 drinks. So technically you and I had 4 drinks each from one beverage.
In 10 minutes.
In 10 minutes.
On top of everything else.
On top of everything else that we drank, which was what? Like, I think there was like 4 gin beverages that we had like at my crib before we got into the Uber.
Yes, it was, and tequila shots.
There was tequila shots. We were mixing
heavy too.
There was some crazy vodka lychee drinks that I made.
We do not advise you mixing all the alcohol like that we did.
I advise it as long as you're in a safe environment.
I do not advise it ever.
You know what? It's because a lot of people, like, obviously, like, we talk about family and stuff like that. My mother is like a party animal. Like, she's like the queen of, like, she's so cool, like, and everything like that. And like, when I was turning 21, like, the person I would go out a lot with would be like my mom. And my mom taught me how to get, like, my mom, I wouldn't say she's like the best at putting everything in one pot.
This makes us sound like we're alcoholics.
AKA her stuff. But we're not alcoholics. I think what happens is when you become an adult,
this is the first time we went out in like 2 weeks.
It's the first time I went out, yeah, because I work an overnight job. I don't usually get
I don't go out
those kind of opportunities, like, at all, to like do that. I really don't. I in fact, to be honest with you, I took off thinking I was gonna go to sleep. Like, I'll be completely honest with you. Like, I was so tired, and I was like, oh, I need a day of rest. And I could hear it in my voice and like everything like that. Like, I was like, oh, I need like some time to rest. And I literally thought, we sure did not. I mean, I rested the following day, which is good, because just in case we have to show something on the. Yes, we have a behind the screen is a wonderful like 65-inch television that we use sometimes to like display things on there and stuff like that. So. Like, if I pull up Twitter or something like that, like, it'll be there. I can just, like, put it on the screen and we can talk shit about it. Like we did yesterday with, like, Kim Kardashian. The last time. We did that.
She's in so much heat right now.
Yeah,
So today, like, our topic is really kind of cool. I think it is really relevant right now. We're going to talk about how social media interacts with your relationships with different people. And I feel like social media nowadays is the best and worst thing to ever happen, because the best thing obviously is everybody knows there are pros to social media, but the cons to social media come in the most intimate spaces, I feel like. So when you're in a relationship, it's almost like another barrier you have to learn. Mm-hmm. And it kind of complicates things a lot of the time. I feel like I went through that with my ex a lot. And social media I might have some like weird opinions of it, because I know a lot of girls don't care when their men like other girls' photos or like half naked photos, but I definitely care. I feel like there's like, you know, intention on that. I feel like it all comes down to intention at the end of the day. So I don't know how you feel about social media. You're in a loving relationship, and like you guys have different like ways of dealing with certain things. So I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I think that all that really comes from the fact that we had an episode two episodes back where we talked about sex, and
that was our best like YouTube video too. Everybody watched. We got like a lot of views on that.
Really? Oh yeah, really? I didn't look at the likes. I just watched the video. But I try not to look at that stuff sometimes. I'm always like, oh my god! Like, I think I come from a very sex positive household. If you hadn't seen that episode, you know, talking about it here, like that's the kind of household that I come from. And so when it comes to sort of navigating like sexuality and stuff, like I think like for me, like I tell people like when I'm in a relationship, especially like, you know, I tell people all the time, especially as an artist, like it's so hard to like avoid like having to like interact with people who, you know.
I feel like my opinion's changing now, but it would keep going.
Well, yeah, I mean, like for me, like I know, like I tell people all the time, like, you know, I'm not really one of those people that sees like the naked body or whatever it is and goes like, oh my god, like, oh yeah, like I want to see more of your stuff. Like, nah, like I think for me, like, because I come from such a sex positive like family, my relationship to that kind of stuff is like so
different,
drastically. It's kind of like, I don't want to say desensitized is the word, but like I think we do live in an era where I think a lot of men, like, or even a lot of people, I think the human body in itself is like so sexualized. It's not seen as like this mechanical art.
Yeah, it's stuff. So normal, but I think social media comes with a lot of context of what the relationship is like. So say if that man is lying to you all the time or like making you feel insecure, you're obviously going to be insecure about social media.
Obviously.
And I think that's what happened with my past relationship. Yeah. There were so many other things in context in the actual relationship that happened that made me feel that way.
Yeah.
If there was like a healthy relationship I was in with somebody that I trusted wholeheartedly, I don't give a damn if they liked the picture because at the end of the day, they're still giving me the respect.
Right, and also too, it's like I've always said to Christy too. I'm like, you know, like even I've told her, I've been like, listen, like I would much rather you like a picture and watch pornography and God knows whatever else, you know, than, you know, feel like you have to do something like behind my back because of whatever it is, you know, because of whatever it might be, you know what I mean? Because for me, like, especially like when you are truly in a trusting relationship, and this even goes to even when we lack trust within ourselves, right? Because there's so many people that they go into a relationship without the blank canvas of allowing that person to sort of prove who they are sometimes, right? And social media kind of does that because because social media is very reflective. Right, because you start to see through the vastness of people that we all do have certain similarities, like mentally and emotionally and physically.
I kind of went through that a little bit because I feel like in my past relationship, I was so young I didn't know how to have friends without flirting with them.
Oh yeah.
So I didn't trust myself either, and it was like a big combination.
Well, that was like me, like when I was definitely after my like first relationship. I was very much like, I don't think that I'm like capable of like not interacting with people to be like flirtatious. And I think also too, I had to define what, I think for all these different things too, it's like we have to, a lot of people, I was actually just telling my girlfriend who's watched this documentary, she was like, why hasn't this woman like left this guy yet or whatever it is, right? And I was like, because a lot of us we don't want to be alone. Like who wants, especially when every day you go on like, the woman in the documentary like ran like a huge business, and she was like, why did you want to be alone? Because like you're once you're an entity in that sort of situation, in that kind of like a business, right? You don't really have the ability to kind of just be like, oh, well, you know, like, fuck it, I can be without social media or stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, you really don't have the luxury of doing that. So if you go through a divorce, everyone is seeing your divorce. If you go through a breakup, everyone is seeing your breakup, right? So I told her, I said, a lot of people just don't want to be alone. They don't want to be alone in the sense that they don't want to deal with the patronizing bullshit that kind of comes with having to go through that and for people to see that. And you can, and I mean, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of people who have children, go through divorces, go through relationship issues and all that kind of stuff, and they don't publicize it. That's fine. But I think that we've reached a point in just culture where what we do on the internet is almost, it's not a second life to what we do in our personal lives anymore. They've become more synonymous.
Yeah, but I also feel like because of that aspect of like everybody sees everything, people are going with the safer option of now I'm not going to post you because I don't want anybody to see anything.
Right.
And that's like a total other extreme that also
comes with negative
insecurity, because
why don't you ever post me on your gram?
Why don't you ever post me?
Why don't you ever post me on your gram?
Do you want me to be hidden? Like why am I always hidden? And I feel like that push and pull of like the fine line where you're going to go is, because then girls do take advantage of that, or guys do take advantage of that.
Oh yeah,
that emptiness of like you look single on your profile.
It is kind of crazy because it's like all that kind of stuff. I was late in the game when it came to like having cell phones. I was very late in the game when it came to having like social media, like as a kid. And so I feel like sometimes as an adult, I'm in like this weird place between like being like 30, 40, 40, 50 years old, where it's like, it doesn't fucking matter what gets posted on the fucking internet. You know what I mean?
I just think that's a normal guy view.
No, I think there's a lot of, I think there's also like, there's a lot of people who I think like, especially when you kind of go, because when I was single and like, I tell you, I kid you not, I think I definitely had like a social media addiction, especially like in my like early 20s. And it got to a point where I wanted to be on my phone less.
Yeah.
So like what I did was the way to sort of do that is I turned off all of my notifications for like all of my
I do that now.
Yeah, but there was a period of time where like I was just like, I'm doing too much.
But then that became an issue too.
Like that you were
my ex would be like, why don't you have your notifications on? What are you hiding? I'm like, I'm not hiding anything. I just don't want my notifications.
Yeah, I just like my thing is like I like, especially for me, like I have like obviously I have glasses, but if you can see these things, they're freaking Coca-Cola cans.
They really are Coke
and
bottles.
They're Coke bottles. and so like when it came to that kind of stuff, like my eyes, they always do this thing where like if I'm staring like at a screen or a light or whatever it is for a very long time, they get dry. So like I would always like whip out my phone and look at my phone, and then like at a certain point it was like clockwork. It was like every night my eyes were just like
on fire.
They were like burning, and I was
you're physically getting pain from looking at your phone.
Yeah, and like I was like, and so like I had to like tell people and everything. Like I was like, yeah, no, it's not the fact that like I want to hide anything from anything. It's just the fact that I'm just like literally get like eye issues to looking at my phone all the time. I look at a computer at work.
Yeah.
Overnight, it happens to me every single time. Every single time I'm at work.
But I feel like once you are in that relationship and you start going down that hole, it's a really hard climb to get out of that like always questioning hole. Like you're always questioning every little thing somebody does, or every little notification, or every little post, it was that time on Instagram where like, do you remember that time on Instagram where it got everybody in trouble, but you could go on somebody's profile and see what they were liking, what they were viewing?
Yes.
And that was the most toxic time of my life.
It was a great time.
Because me and my boyfriend were having very bad times and like a lot of lying and deception, and just we were living together, so it was just really messy. And I was just glued to his feed of like what he was liking, what he was doing, questioning every little thing. It was so toxic. So the next relationship I'm in, I want to make sure that my social media presence doesn't affect it, and that unfortunately is something I have as a conversation, like even before I start dating somebody, is like, is my social media presence going to affect you in any way, shape, or form?
Like so I think the look for me is that like Christy works in marketing. So her whole thing is like what gets on social media, what happens with public relations, all that kind of stuff. And I think also too, as a person who makes music or a person who indulges in art and things like that, as a person who wants to make movies, you really kind of like look at certain things. Like there's movies that I watch sometimes, and Chrissy's just like, she's like, really? I'm like, yeah, because like I don't have an issue. Like I've seen so many crazy things. Like at this point in time, it's like nothing. To me, it's like nothing is like. I don't want to say like nothing is erotic anymore, because obviously like everybody has some sense of like eroticism, and we don't want to. That intimacy is obviously important to like still have, but like as far as like images that I see like on like the internet and like all that kind of stuff, or on like social media and stuff like that, I'm so just like, eh. Like I really do find like there's so many people who I know over the years, especially because of the pandemic and all that kind of stuff, who turn to having, you know, entrepreneurial sites. Like they turn to having like Patreons or OnlyFans or things like that.
Because everyone's desensitized towards it now, and it's just like a paycheck at the end of the day.
Yeah, so like there's so many times where like somebody will be like, I'm promoting my thing in my bio or wherever it is. I'm just like, eh. Like I'm just like, eh, okay. Like, obviously, like, I saw it, but, okay. You know what I mean? Like, how many times can you see somebody twerking and think, like, oh, my God, like, this is, like...
Right.
I'm like, what are we, like, 15?
But that's the problem, too, because it's a slippery slope. Right now, like, everybody's trying to one-up everything. Like, okay, twerking isn't as exciting anymore. So now what's next? Like, OnlyFans isn't as exciting anymore. So now what's next? Like, you know?
Well, then we're going back to the... Well, then it's funny, because, like, we're sort of like looking at the situation. It's like love, sex, and relationships like on the internet. Like it's the
internet. It's ruining marriage, and it's ruining a lot of like.
Well, marriage.
Old things. That...
To me, like marriage, like most things I think in the world, like needs to definitely be like. I think marriage is a beautiful thing. I just want everybody to know that. I don't say I don't believe in marriage, because I do highly believe in marriage. I'd love to marry my girlfriend one day. But I think I understand that all these things that we're doing in life now, like, can't even be by like traditional standards anymore. No. They have to greatly be by what you and your partner like make of it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, for example,
which is kind of sad.
I mean, is it sad?
It's evolutionary, but in a lot of ways, it's sad too, because it takes away from the actual like tradition of it. Like tradition is great in general. Like I feel like. I grew up in a very traditional household, like, and I kind of see the beauty in that sometimes, and I miss it because of the nostalgia of that.
Well, nostalgia makes the pain go down softer.
I guess.
That's real. I mean, that's why like every movie that you have right now is either like a sequel, a remake, a requel, a prequel.
Facts.
A freaking, oh my God, like an ultra sequel, like this movie came out 20 years ago and now we're gonna make another movie about it. Like, you know what I mean? Like situation. And so the thing about it is that like the hardest thing about change and that evolution, right, is not necessarily the change, it's the having to accept the change, right?
It's not that I don't accept the change, it's just the fact of like the people like me that want the traditional marriage and want that is now really, really hard to find.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think, well, it's also too, it's like we all have to like pick and choose the things that work from the past and implement the things that are part of our futures, right? Like, for example, like I wholeheartedly like wish sometimes that like it was easier to be able to have a home and have kids, like it traditionally in the world like it's would be.
So
but it's so economically frustrating. So like sometimes I sit there and I go, there's no way Christy and I could have this place that we live in and be able to have like a baby. Like we have these conversations all the time, like about like how it's like we're like, oh, it'd be so great, and then we go, nah, and then like, but it's
But then you talk to people that do have that, and you're like, how? And you talk to them, and they're like saying like how easy it is, or like they're just talking about how.
Well, I think everything is easy in the eyes of the beholder, right? So I mean, like, I think a lot of people do great. A lot of people are great parents, And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm afraid to be a parent. No, I think some people, you know, are selfless in that sense, and some people are, you know, more. I don't mean this in a negative way, but they're more selfish in that sense, right? Like, I think some of us want something that we just don't have yet, and we're like working for it, you know?
Yeah, but also kids are like something that a lot of, but men in general feel like they have to have the right time for. And there's never a right time.
Because what I think happened with men is that, like, I don't think we've evolved the same way that as greatly as women have.
Like, you can always have a kid and figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, let's just put it that
way. But I don't think that a lot of men have evolved the same way that women have. In a way, I think we've almost like dissolved a little bit more of our traditions a little bit or our ideas of masculinity have not necessarily evolved as well as time has gone on. Because I'll tell you this, I think that one of the key points of masculinity or what's attributed to the ideology of toxic masculinity, right, is that we like we talk a lot on this podcast about how, like, failure is not like a loss, it's a lesson, right? And I think that a lot of men, like, when it comes to like failure, I think we beat ourselves. I know I did. Like, I went through a breakup and I beat myself up horribly. I didn't leave the bed. Like, I was like, I'm a failure. There's no way I could ever have a wife. There's no way I could ever share a home with a partner. Am I just not meant for a partner? You know, you go through every little subcategory of what everyone has ever told you might be like your downside when you're in a relationship, when you get to know somebody on a molecular level, and that's taken away. And I think that's why you run into situations like freaking Kanye West going out and doing the shit that he's doing to, like, Kim Kardashian, or you run into these guys who go, oh my God, like, I have to fucking. Other category. No, but no, like, that makes perfect sense, right? Like, if anything, right, like, I can say for me, as an individual, I have reevaluated my sense on masculinity. It's projections on social media, it's projections, like, in my life, right? Yeah. And so I think that when you finally have that, if you never have that reevaluation, then you're fucked. And it's important as a guy, you have to have that reevaluation. Your masculinity is not a standard. Your masculinity is what you make of it. Whereas for women, there's definitely still issues, and there's always going to be things within the cycle of those issues. But it's the washing machine. Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, you're hearing dignity.
Yeah. Women have had that, but women's evolution in the workplace has changed.
Yeah, women's I feel like
evolutions as individuals change. Like you're back in traditional days, 50 years ago, a lot of women were stay-at-home mothers. Like, I was just watching a movie and I was like, the mom stays home, like, that could never economically happen in today's world, right? I know plenty of women that are better parents just being them and their son or their daughter than having a man involved.
Facts.
And they're amazing at it, right? And the crazy part about it is you'll have men that will mostly go, well, the reason why she can't keep a man, like, she just doesn't want to. Like, we wouldn't have an issue.
She doesn't need one.
Right. We wouldn't have an issue if there was a guy, like, walking around and he was the only person that was taking care of his kids. Like,
yeah, that'd be amazing.
It'd be amazing.
Right? It'd be
first of all, the first thing most people would say is, damn, this man must get a lot of ass. Because, like, come on now, like, when we don't really see that, right? So we don't see that pushback. So I think that what men have to do, and I think the uses of social media should do for people on the positive side is that we have similarities, but I think we all need to come to the table with something that's different. And when we have these conversations across these platforms, and when people talk about their love and relationships and sex and how they correspond with social media, I think that the negative side of social media is that instead of causing people to sort of have all these ideas and come to the table, they are more so like just kind of all in like agreement with each other. Mm-hmm. And that's not what social media is for. It's to promote more ideas, sorry, we're having. Are you doing laundry, babe?
Yeah.
Okay, she's doing laundry, everybody. We know how those go. But yeah, like after my rant on what that is, yeah, like that's
Is she laughing?
Yeah, she's of course. It's hilarious.
You're gonna hear the podcast like ding 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 ding.
Yeah, we're gonna have to put like a little caption on the bottom that says Christy's doing laundry. It will like an asterisk,
Not to backpedal, but I liked what you said about the feminine times masculine. But I want to talk a little bit about how those ideas have changed because of social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like femininity and masculinity have drastically changed in a lot of ways because back in the day, right, you didn't have social media, you didn't have like an instant gratification of what that pictured, what that visually looked like.
Right.
Nowadays, kids that are like 12 or 13 have an idea of what an 18, 19, 20-year-old is doing and wearing and looking like, right? In any way, shape, or form, masculine or feminine. Mm-hmm. And how that can be educational is great, but also how that can be detrimental to their childhood is so interesting. And like, I feel like kids nowadays don't have that awkward phase anymore. Like they don't, like, I don't know if you're on TikTok and you saw the summer 2009 trends going on.
Yeah.
Like looking back at summer 2009 and we all looked like ugly ass little infants.
I don't know about y'all, I looked great. But like, I'm kidding.
You did not look good in 2009.
Oh, thank you.
Nobody did.
Nah, I looked okay. I think I looked better then than I was down, actually, to be honest with you.
In 2009, we were like 13 or 14
I was a super pudgy athlete. I looked like Cleveland Jr.
I looked like, I don't even know. I had a Twilight shirt on half the time. I looked like a little worm. I don't know what that.
You looked your
but
you looked your age. Yeah, it's a little different. It's like everybody's looking like Euphoria High.
Kids that are 13, 12.
They look like Euphoria High.
Yes, but like they
they do.
Like they wear the same
High.
thing I do, and I'm 27 years old.
Yeah. Well,
and
a part of
that does kind of come into their relationships. Like they are doing things that we did at 18, 19 years old, at 12 and 13.
But we're also doing things that people that are in their 30s and 40s are doing like prior to like being married. Like, you know what I mean? Like they're like, for example, there are so many times where like in my family, like I've been reminded, especially like when I start off like dating a girl or anything like that, like people are like, if you don't have any financial ties to that person, if you don't have like any of that kind of stuff to that person, like, you know, it doesn't matter. The love of your life could come around tomorrow. And like we have such like commitment like to people like sometimes like, and that constantly they used to always get thrown around at me when I was like in my early 20s, because like people go, you're in your early 20s, like enjoy yourself. You don't necessarily like have to do all this kind of stuff or whatever it is. And like I just was thinking about it, like especially when I was going through like my single phase, it was like what are we as a generation who has been affected by social media, like, you know, what are we doing? Like,
but I don't also necessarily agree with that. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I don't know if I agree with it, but I remember it being like,
if you're involved with somebody, you should be committed to them.
Oh yeah, I mean you should. That's the thing. Like,
I don't have like a tie to them.
I don't know if commitment is the word that older individuals should be using in that situation. I don't even think loyalty is, because I think it's important to be as loyal as you can to a person. I think what we're kind of learning more so as time goes on and as we reflect upon the past and how it's working, you know, in correspondence to what's going on now, is that some of those people had some really fucked up ideas on like how to like navigate like relationships sometimes.
They did have some fucked up ideas, but what you said about how we're acting like 30, 34, I think I'm the opposite. I think I'm acting younger than I should be because of social media.
Well, I don't think
I want to follow the trends and I'm 27 years old.
Well, I don't think there's an age anymore. Because we just talked about it. There's no awkward phase.
Yeah, but how is that okay for a 12, 13-year-old to act like they're 27?
It's not.
/ be doing things in relationships that they shouldn't be.
I mean, it's almost like, remember like the other thing too is
like, did I even think about sex at 12 and 13? No.
Oh, I mean, I did. But like that, but that's because also too, like the conversation that when you're a 12, 13-year-old boy, like you're thinking about sex. Like, you're thinking about it. I don't think you're thinking about it in the same way that you were once before. Like beforehand, you had to, when it comes to the ideas of pornography, when it comes to
thinking about it and doing it are two totally different things. I think kids that are 12 or 13 are doing it now.
But the truth is kids when they were 12 or 13 years old back in the day were also doing it. It's just a matter of I have these conversations with my dad, and like when I get to like meet his friends, like we have conversations. I'm like, my dad like lost his virginity at like 12.
Yeah, but it's way more prevalent now. That is like your idea of it is so skewed because your parents were so open.
But the truth is, I don't think it's a rarity. I don't think it ever was a rarity. I think what it is just that it wasn't as projected across like what people did back then. I think the truth is I don't think things have necessarily changed in the sense of the actions that people do as individuals. I just think that social media has broadcasted it wider than...
I beg to differ with you.
You don't think so?
I think the broadcasting has created younger people
the broadcasters made it happen more.
Things in relationships. They expect things in relationships that are something they shouldn't even be thinking about. Like, their whole relationship nowadays, like, speaking to, like, I'm not going to say names, obviously, certain 13, 12-year-olds in my life that I have around me, they expect things that should be expected from 20, 21-year-olds.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and they're just starting to date, and that's scary. That guys are dumping 12, 13-year-olds because they won't have sex with them, or like, or they're not good at it, or their body count's too high. Or
so that's the kind of stuff that I think also too like falls into... One, I think it does fall into when that weird kind of crossover happens where, you know, there's like the parents that, because a lot of people, other thing too is like my parents are also younger than a lot of people's parents. Mm-hmm. So like my parents are children of the 70s. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? They're children of the 80s. They're not teenagers in like the 70s or like the 80s.
Well, the 70s are different because it was all about love.
Well, the end of the 60s, the 70s has that too, but the 70s is also like, the 70s was also about the corruption of our leaders and also politically like where it's sort of, the 70s is really where everything kind of really got fucked up if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Right? Because the 60s was more about like that free love and expression towards the end, and then when you sort of have a situation historically like Watergate or something like that, that sort of is the thing that sort of is the breaking point of like our institutions can't necessarily be trusted anymore. Right. And that's where a lot of like that conspiratorial elements and stuff happened. They started from that moment. And I think for my mother who was born in 1971 and my father who was born in my father was born in 1971 and my mother was born in 1973.
My mom was born in 70.
Right. But like the thing is like the 70 is those like 0 years, those like exact
0 years.
Well, yeah, like those, like if you were born in like 2000, right? Like you have no idea that like we all thought that unless somebody told you, you would have no idea that we all thought that in the year 2000, like we needed to stock up on batteries because we thought fucking Y2K was gonna happen and like the whole thing was just gonna go like the whole electric grid was gonna be over and we were all gonna be living as fucking cavemen.
People are doing that now.
Well, yeah,
like, that's like kind of like
it happens every year. Like remember, like even like when we were in 2012, like everybody thought that the whole world was supposed to end.
That's still a conspiracy that they think like, I don't know how much people believe in this, but that's still like a thing. They think we like shifted universes. Or anyway, keep going.
Yeah, but like that's the thing, right? So like the way that I kind of see it is like I think that the broadcasting element of it has sort of created those expectations, but I think it's also more so not just the social media element, because I think the thing that kind of comes with the broadcasting is sort of what we've done in our lives outside of our media, our education systems. Like
it's awful. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that in the sex episode.
Yeah, like we talk about the fact that our education system is so in need of like a step up and so in need of like a recharge.
A true safe sex class. Like it's all about abstinence and that doesn't work.
Right, but not even just that aspect. Just in general. We're teaching people that life is pass or fail. And if you pass, you're great. But if you fail, you suck. Yeah. Right? And so I think that that's the element across the board with everything that is being broadcasted. And that's why I think a lot of these kids are demanding things that people in marriages are demanding, because when you're in a marriage, right, you're really looking for teamwork, but also too, when you're marrying somebody, that's an assurance that you know yourself. And at like 12 or 13, and when we're teaching people pass or fail, we're teaching them, and also too, subliminally, you have to know yourself. And if you don't know yourself, then you're going to get kicked to like the curb, right? Yes. And so I think what's happening is a lot of these like 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids, or even a little older, a lot of these high school and things, like nobody is really telling them, and this also has to come with parenting, even though we've talked about how there's a lot of people that are our age that are parents, there's a lot of shitty parents out there still, like it's, you know, there's just as good parents as there is bad parents, right? And I think we have a lot of parents that they don't really parent. Like they're like, oh, I have to work. I'm just gonna drop off my kids at school. Like school is not, and you could see that during the pandemic. Like when kids had to stay like home during school, like your parents being like, oh, I'm so frustrated that I have to do these things for my kids. It's like, no, you get to spend time with your kids. Yeah, like your kids are not an accessory. Like your kids, they matter to you. Like if I had the ability to teach, to say, okay, like my kid goes to school at a public school, but I have to help them with like their stuff, like I would have been so excited. I would have been like, oh, it's great. We're gonna wake everybody up. Everybody's gonna get up at 6:30. We're gonna make everybody a nice breakfast. We're gonna get everybody going, and then everybody's gonna go. Everybody's
gonna be the ultimate dad, everybody.
As you can see, like my enthusiasm is
He's
wild
so
for this
excited
shit.
to be dad.
But like people didn't. Like they were just like, oh, I just wish that I could just drop my kids off at like school already.
There are people. How many times I've heard that? It's so annoying.
There are people who I know who switched school districts or went to private school to schools that still allowed their kids to go to school during the pandemic because they didn't feel like having, and these people got like 4 or 5 kids. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, well, around like 2, you didn't sit there and go, well, anything could freaking happen, like maybe I should stop. Like, nah, like you just kept going, like your kids were diamond rings, like they were Super Bowl rings, and you were Tom Brady, like every single time you popped one out. Like I think what happens is then like parents, they start, you know, it's fatigue. They start to get fatigued with how to handle their kids. And then you have your kids now trying to navigate like pass or fail. They're not even really trying to navigate like, you know.
My biggest thing with the education system is like, it's all about remembering the information and regurgitating it.
Right, it's not about critically thinking.
It's instead of actually like taking in the knowledge and understanding it and using it and applying it.
Yeah, and
it's all regurgitation.
And I think that like we're sort of like the last. You and I come from that weird in-between generation where like it was like everything was pass or fail, but because like we're the tail end of like the MySpace era, like
oh my god,
where like you know,
yo, I miss MySpace.
Listen, everything.
Yo, but I would fuck anybody up who stole my song. You know who you are.
That's why I was like, I need to go into the mixtape era.
Oh, yo, that used to be the tea.
Yeah.
When somebody stole your song, you come to school the next day and be like, bitch.
Oh my god.
What the fuck?
Or like when somebody would break up with somebody and like they wouldn't like necessarily publicize it, they would change their song to like something sad.
Sad, or like take them off their best friend's account.
Oh my god. Like I also remember too, like when I was like.
And the coding.
Oh my god. When I was in like 8, oh my god, yeah.
We used to have to do like computer code to change the background.
Computer coding to like change the color on the background. I used to spend hours like coding.
And also, I used to be so obsessed with All Time Low. Like I used to be an All Time Low girly. And I was obsessed with Alex Gaskar. And I had him like all over my MySpace, and I was on like all these fan pages. And his ex-girlfriend, like we got into a fight. Like because I was like so into him.
Look, my girlfriend got called a back in the early Twitter days, my girlfriend got called Christy, who was it again? The guy who called you a petty whore? Jonathan Shaban. That's his name? That? He's like friends with Kim Kardashian because Christy's ex-boyfriend.
Oh, is that the one with the fake lips? He looks like a fish?
That's to do with the fake lips? Yeah. So
he called you a petty whore?
Yes, because her boyfriend at the time, her ex-boyfriend, was going on Twitter and harassing the Kardashian family. And like you could legitimately like talk to people who were famous.
Yeah, back then it was like
you can still kind of do it right now, but it's so many people on it. It's like unless you like are really cool, like they won't really respond to you. But like
because when you're verified, you go into a different DM.
Yeah.
Than your other ones, but
but back in the day, nobody had those verifications. That shit was just like
you could literally talk to anybody.
Yeah, freaking, he called Christy a petty whore. She wasn't even a part of the conversation. They just saw her picture and said, your girlfriend's a petty whore. Meanwhile, she's like, what are you, like 13, 14? Yeah, she was like 13, 14 years old. Like, you're a grown man calling a 13 or 14
I
year
could
old a petty
honestly
whore.
argue that like the internet back then used to be way worse.
Oh yeah, it did.
Because there was no filters.
People think for some reason, like this is why, like, going back to like the parenting thing, I think sometimes it's crazy because it's like we're having this whole debate right now, right, about like we don't like our kids being taught like about, you know, the issues that the United States did, right? Or like what they're being taught.
And that
gay bill, right? And like you're sitting there and you're going like, and they're like, well, the parents aren't showing what they're supposed to, what their kids are doing in school. It's like, no.
Or I want my kid to be taught about gay.
Well, here's the truth. The truth is you motherfuckers never cared. You never cared. You're acting like you care because now, just like everybody else, you can be called out for how bad your parenting is. Because we can all find you on social media. You know your ass was on MySpace and your ass was on Facebook and shit like that. And like you were sitting there like like you know that's why these people are doing this whole like, you know, don't say gay bills. Or while we're getting, we don't want to have this whole like 18, what is it? It's like the 18, why am I so bad at it? I don't remember I'm having a brain fart. But
18 months.
The slavery thing, how they want to teach like American slavery.
Oh,
like,
I don't know what it's called though, yeah.
Yeah, but they, like 1819 or 1817 or something like that, like they don't want to teach people that because for some reason they don't want to reveal the truth about a country that doesn't have a social media platform. Like, we don't. Like, we all know the atrocities that happen. We can't act like we're trying to sweep it under the rug for the sake of patriotism.
I mean, that's America.
Well, yeah, but the unfortunate thing is, like, for parents to use the excuses, I don't know what my kid is learning in school. You never cared. Yeah. Before the pandemic, and I would even argue, like, I would even say, like, before, like, this whole thing of, like, you know, like, all, like, before, like, I'll say this. I think before, like, 2015, none of you people gave a shit. Be completely honest with you. From 2009 to, like, from, like, 2008 to, like, 2014, we were all going around doing the Kevin Hart was bashing dollhouses over his gay kid's head.
Nobody really cared. In our high school, like, bad shit happened. Teachers would say whatever they wanted. Right,
freaking dead baby jokes and all this other shit.
Yo, teachers were getting with.
Yeah, like teachers were fucking students all the time. And it's funny too, because like it's wild, because like you guys did not care.
And I know you had the same teacher in mind.
I know exactly what you're talking about, but we will not say name on here. And I found out late. I didn't even find out when it happened. I found out later, and I was like, God damn. But like, nah, like for real, like none of you people gave a shit. You only gave a shit when people only give a shit when like right, like
their backs against the wall.
Their backs against the wall, and that's in 3 different ways. Their backs against the wall economically, because that's the one thing. Everybody's struggling for money right now. So of course everybody's got to find something to distract themselves. Oh, what am I going to distract myself with? The something that I never gave a shit about before, but now there's something I give a shit about. And then beforehand, I would have said, oh, that's perfectly fine that you teach my kid about slavery. Oh, that's perfectly fine that my kids learn about the fact that there are gay people in this world. Now all of a sudden you give a shit about it. But there's been gay people, and gay is not new, so it don't really matter in the first place.
I don't know why it's been a thing.
Freaking Caligula was out here fucking men and women in Rome, like, years ago.
But why? I just don't understand why in the year of 2022 it's become a bill. Like, it's been a thing
because
it's
all clickbait. It's all clickbait. Everything is clickbait.
I think it's so beautiful having, like, people understand what they are and it be okay, and like they have options to go look on social media and people to follow and people to like look up to, and the fact that he's trying to delete that makes no sense.
Look at the Turning Red. Look at the we just watched Turning Red last night on Disney Plus. It's this movie that came out. It's about this girl who turns into like a red panda.
with the
and people are sitting there going like, I didn't want my kids to know about any of this. Why?
I'm over here like, what's that? And I totally shared the fifth.
Because it's basically like a bunch of parents saying, well, if she had listened to her mom, like nothing bad would have happened. Did you watch the movie? Like her mom was.
Well, most people haven't, and that's the problem.
But even for the people that have said they have, like I'm like, you clearly didn't watch the movie because her mom was overbearing. She was.
I didn't watch the movie.
She was. Her mom.
I only saw the meme online.
Yeah. Her mom was coming to school and embarrassing the shit out of her in front of her friends.
I know how that feels.
The whole movie until the end of the movie. I'm not going to get into spoilers or anything about it, but at the end of the movie, practically her mom destroys an entire concert stadium while she's going to see this boy band that she likes. Full on destroys a concert venue.
It definitely puts into light helicopter parents, and those are the people that are having issues.
Those are the people that have. But that's the thing, right? Like those people. The thing that's wild to me is that you're only freaking out about this stuff because you have nothing better to do. And in the long run, while you're doing this, you're not making your kid come closer to you. You're making your kid come away from you. I used to have this conversation with my dad all the time, especially as we got older and we became teenagers. I was always saying, I was like, Dad, I'm surprised that all my friends were able to do all this crazy shit. Some of my friends were able to do wild, crazy shit that I had no ability to do, at all. And part of it was because I lived with my grandmother and my aunt. They were older. They didn't like people being in the house, and they didn't believe in the girls sleeping in your room and all that kind of stuff, right? My dad and my parents set me aside and they really said the moment that we tell you no in an authoritative and crazy tone, parents will do, because they'll go from 0 to 100. It won't be an easy build up. It'll be just with teaching sex in school. If you have sex, you're gonna commit and die. Not to quote Mean Girls, but that's what it is, right? But the moment that we give you that extreme is the moment that you'll just do it behind our backs.
Yeah, me and my sister are definitely examples of that. Our parents were. My mom was at the school all the fucking time. Sometimes I'd walk down the hallway and see my mom and be like, "Why?
Why are you here?
Why are you here?" And she would get so involved. And there's things that I've noticed as an adult and looked back on, and I'm like, "Wow, that's because she did something." Like that happened in return of whatever she said or did.
Right. Well,
and it's living with a helicopter parent is so awful, especially after my sister had Giselle, my niece. Mm-hmm. At 16. Mm-hmm. And after that, holy shit, man, I was on a chastity belt. I was not allowed to do shit. I was not allowed to go anywhere. I was not allowed to talk to anybody.
But you would think also too that did they helicopter parented your sister too, right? I'm assuming is that.
Yeah, but she was definitely more rebellious.
Right, but that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
You would think the usual response to something when you're doing something like that, and you feel as though, okay, well, that person did it anyway, is it's not go stronger.
Yeah.
Because that's just going to make the person that you go stronger on do worse things than the person who did it before.
I think the way that our parents parented us, drastically harmed our relationships with them till this day. To this day.
It's the moment, I would sit there, you would think that what people would do is that they would have a reevaluation of okay, well listen, this is not working. And this is why when it comes to the social media, we see how all of these, between the helicopter parenting and the things these don't say gay bills and these I don't want my kids to know about slavery stuff, and what this movie does, what that movie does, all that kind of stuff. I honestly think that what people need to do is, I would urge everybody, especially on social media, and you can reach out to people on social media, you can have these conversations with people that realize hovering over somebody to kind of protect them, it doesn't protect them. What happens when you hold a tube of yogurt? If you squeeze too hard, the tube all the yogurt shoots out everywhere. So no, but that's a great example of it. It creates a mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hold a thing of Neosporin, squeeze it. Hold a thing of glue, squeeze it. What happens? It doesn't keep it tighter. It doesn't keep it more compacted in there. goes everywhere. So you need to be, I think it's important for especially for in the day of social media, and also too, mind you, I think a lot of these people are also under the assumption that their children are not as bad as they were. When the difference is now your
kids are... No, I think it's
the
opposite.
Right. No, here's the crazy part.
It's because they know how crazy they were, they are going to parent like they were not parented.
But here's the wild part. Those people were like going like...
Because my mom was an insane kid. Like, literally insane. Like, going out, like, just running away for like 2 days, coming back like nothing.
But that was even the thing. But that was
like,
even the thing. Like at the tail, we were at the tail end of that. Like remember, like you in like the early 2000s, especially. Like that was still like you went outside with like your friends.
Oh yeah.
And like
for hours.
Like, when you would come back, because we didn't have social media, so we didn't talk to each other and plan stuff and have cell phones and stuff like that. I remember like
knocking on people's doors.
I remember like you would come back from school because we went to a private school. Like you would come back from school after not seeing those kids for the whole summer or whatever it is, right? And like you would go, oh, what'd you do this summer? And somebody would be like, oh, I went to my grandparents' house in like Myrtle Beach or something like that. And they'd be like, oh, that's cool. What did you do for the summer? Oh, we snuck into like an insane asylum and like we ran into some neo-Nazis and we told them to fuck off and die. Like that was literally like a thing. Like, oh, we used to go to the Pipe, or like, oh, we used to go or like, oh, you know, we went to Sarko, or like, oh, like we went to like, remember like all that kind of stuff. Like that's the kind of shit like we went to Arthur Brisbane. Like, oh, like that's the kind of shit that we went to behind Wood Lane. Like, you know, and you got your ass beat for it. But like, you know what I mean? Well, I got my ass beat for it. But like that was what happened. Like that's what happened. Like it's wild.
That kind of parenting just breeds sneakier kids. And like you find a way to do the things that you want to do regardless of who's telling you not to do it or
right. And we gonna find you.
There's actually there's a guy on TikTok, he's a dad, and I have to like put his name on the screen because I don't remember his name exactly, but he literally teaches people how to parent the correct way. And it's the coolest thing because I'm like, wow, if I was just parented this way, I would be like so much better of a kid. Like I wouldn't have been so sneaky. I wouldn't have felt like I had to rebel and do the shit that I wasn't supposed to be doing. And like, even if I wanted to go do it, I probably would have been safer doing it.
Yeah, like I think about this. But the crazy part about it is for some people it also bleeds into their freaking 20s and their 30s. Like the effects of like, you know, what's happening where like this helicopter parenting meeting social media and how it just reflects on those people and how they operate with other people, right? Like nowadays, you don't want to date, you don't want to casually date, you don't really want to meet new people because everybody's like, no new friends.
You also have to think about how helicopter parenting happens because the people that helicopter parent now, their parents in that time and generation didn't give a shit where you were.
Didn't give a fuck.
And I think that scared those people a little bit, right. And that's why they helped.
And they felt like they had to be stricter.
Yeah.
But the truth is like, I mean, that was also at a time where like, you know, you fucking sit down and like you do something and your dad literally sitting at the table would be like, shut the fuck up or I'm gonna like fucking, you can get your ass beat. Like, and that's the thing too, like we've also gotten to this point where it's like, people don't beat ass anymore. Like nobody beats ass.
Yeah, I got my ass beat.
I got my ass beat. But like now, like these kids don't get that. Like I've seen videos where you got these boys, fucking up on their like fucking standing over their fucking actual biological fathers and telling these people like,
yeah, kids are.
Did you ever see that video of that one dude
kids
who
are
literally like he
nowadays.
cornered his father in a bathroom and was calling him a fucking like he was calling him a fucking, you can believe this out, he was calling him a fucking pussy like and shit like that like and I was like, you dude, like
kids are disrespectful.
Nah, see,
it's really bad. Social media has really aided in that, though. Social media has aided in disrespectful kids and like the way that they talk to people because they see it done by everybody online, and they feel like.
I would whooped his ass. His ass would have been whooped.
And it's crazy because nowadays ass whooping does not work. Like even if I know some kids that do get their ass whipped, and they're still talking to their people like that. They still talk like that.
Let me tell you something. You gonna get your ass beat if you.
But that doesn't work anymore.
I'll tell you straight up.
I promise you, it doesn't work anymore.
I'm not saying it just works, but I'm not saying that that's in the sense. But
it just makes you feel better.
Listen. I'm gonna tell you something. Like, listen, you try to crowd my big black ass in the bathroom.
I was gonna say you're like such a true black dad.
Son, future son. You try to crowd my black ass in the bathroom, it's down. Listen, your grandfather told me the same thing.
I'm the type of parent that is going to be trying to understand why you have the anger in you to say that.
Oh, I don't understand why.
You know what I mean?
I'm gonna definitely be the. I will try to, because the thing about it is
gentle parenting is not just be like, oh, that's okay, you can say whatever you want.
But that's why I was talking about that accessory parenting.
That's not gentle parenting. That's just parenting.
That's enabling.
Gentle parenting is teaching somebody how to use their emotions the correct way.
Yeah, and it's wild to me because like you got to really think about that argument though that happened on there. It didn't start that way. There had to be an escalation, right? So as a parent, you got to know when the bar gets just, okay, we're at the threshold. I can't enable you to go past the threshold. Now, I understand everybody gets angry, everybody gets mad, everybody gets frustrated.
I'm going to be honest, I was that kid that said whatever the fuck I wanted to my mom. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because whenever she tried to parent or punish or do whatever the fuck, she never stood by that punishment. She never left.
Right, well, you're gonna do it, and then it's gonna be, and then you would just like, oh, fuck it, whatever.
The next day it was like, I didn't ever do anything, and I could go do whatever the fuck I wanted.
Right, and that's the problem. Like but that's what I'm saying. That's that accessory parenting. I'm thinking,
you're in trouble. Give me your phone, and then 10 minutes later you give it back.
I gotta get right, and that doesn't even work these days because you gotta know where these people are. You think you take it. It's like the one thing I in the school systems that I also hate. It's like in school suspensions.
Oh, I was in ISS a lot.
But here's the thing, right? But here's the thing about ISS, right? Nowadays especially, like, why would I want to be sitting up if I was a fucking troublemaker ass kid and I fucking was doing bullshit in my class? Why do I want to go to class? You're gonna deprive a kid from their education to isolate them from everybody else to doing what they're doing? That don't make any damn sense. I never thought that shit made sense to me because the thing about it is,
it makes sense because they're disrupting everybody else's education.
Oh no, that makes sense. In the sense that I get why they're doing it, but I think it's still half-assed it doesn't teach you anything. So like, I'll tell you
just like you just basically put them in a closet so they're not bothering everybody else.
You put them in a closet just so they can have more pent-up energy to do the same shit again the next week and be in ISS again next week, and then they completely have no idea I remember there was a kid in my high school. Well, we went to same high school, but there was a kid in my grade who, like, he would go to ISS, he went to ISS, I think to the point where, like, he was, like, they had to give him, like, out-of-school suspension. Like, out-of-school suspensions. Like,
that's like vacation.
That's a vacation. Like, it legitimately is a vacation.
I got suspended in college because I drank with a concussion, and it was my 21st birthday, okay? So, I was like, risk, reward, So I drank.
Risk and reward. Anyway,
Like, I was like, 21st birthday, not missing that. Fuck that. And I got suspended. And, after being at such like a strict, I have to work out, I have to do this, I have to do that. It was like a fucking vacation. It was the best thing in the entire world. Especially,
but the other thing too is like, do you not think that, like, that's the thing about like social media, right? Like, we all got ideas on what we can do, like, when we're like not in school. Like, nowadays, like, you can't say, oh, you have an out-of-school suspension, and people got to know where you are, so you got to have your cell phone. There's, you're not gonna. That's not how that shit works anymore.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, that type of parenting doesn't work.
And on top of that too is, that's how I think certain people will then treat things in relationships. Because just like there's helicopter parents, there's helicopter partners, and there's helicopter friends. And
helicopter partnering is something that I think I fell down that hole in that toxic relationship that I was in.
Yeah.
But it was because of, obviously, a turn of events. Like, I feel like I'm never going to be that person in a healthy relationship where every relationship is different. That's something that people have to say, too, because you're never going to treat one relationship the same as the other one.
You're not, and you should stop if you do.
Oh, you should not be in a relationship.
You should not be in a relationship if you go from one relationship into the next relationship, and you're going to treat that person who you just got into a relationship with the same way that
my rule of thumb is if I ever meet somebody on Hinge, right, and I ask them how long they've been out of a relationship, it has to be at least a year. It takes at least a minimum of a year to like find yourself again, to like work on yourself
from that situation.
Exactly.
And I would also say to people, like, I know for me, like, I definitely interact with people who are like, oh, my last relationship was like 6 months ago. It's like, how long were you guys together? Oh, we were together for like only like 4 months. I took the time, like, that's not a relationship.
Yeah.
That's a brief encounter.
Entanglement.
Yeah, that's an entanglement. Hashtag no Jada. But like, nah, like for real, like hashtag August, I'll see ya never. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what that is.
Does anybody ever listen to his music anymore?
I mean,
I feel like all his music is depressing as fuck.
Well, I mean, between that, the music it's not really that good.
I mean, I like August Alsina.
The old stuff was good.
But I only listen to him when I'm sad.
Well, yeah, like
because like he doesn't have any happy music. I mean, like. Let me know if he does.
Well, he was in an entanglement. You know, I'd be upset too if I was in an entanglement.
No, but I think like he had a rough life. Like his mom died.
Oh yeah.
Like he had like a lot of stuff.
I mean, between that and now, every single time I see him, all I think about is that penis story.
What penis story?
You never heard the August Alsina penis story? That
no.
Like, he like ruptured, like I think it's like he ruptured somebody's like vagina or something like that because like his penis is like literally like.
What is with Jada and getting big penises?
Listen, Jada likes a big penis.
Is that why in the fucking Girls Trip they put her with the big dick guy?
Yeah, Jada likes big penises. There's nothing wrong with that.
Interesting.
She likes Big Willie.
Did you hear about Big Sean's penis pics?
I just realized that's such a good joke. She likes Big Willie style.
Stupid.
Big Willie! Big Sean's penis did
It got leaked. His fucking dick pics got leaked. They're huge. I have it on my phone. You'll see it.
Wait, you're saying see, when you're saying the pics are huge, are you saying they're big on social media? I don't want to see Big Sean's penis.
I'm gonna show it to you. Anyway.
I don't want to see Sean's Big Sean.
I'm gonna show it to you anyway.
Is this like a Ray J situation?
And I just don't have it in my camera roll. It's in my friends group chat.
She had next to a fucking Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, he I don't know. I guess guys like to do that and put their dicks next to fucking
Well, because the rule of thumb, I guess, with a dick pic is that you always have to have apparently like something in like the distance or nearby to actually give like comparison to.
Like nobody just does a fucking ruler anymore. They just use fucking inanimate objects. You're telling me that 7th grade you did not put a ruler to your dick?
No. Actually, I'll be honest with you.
You're lying.
I'm weird. I've never really measured my penis. I'm being serious. My issue with my penis was when I was a kid was that I never thought that like I was never worried about the length of my penis. I was always worried about the girth of my penis. And then I found out that I was actually moving into the right track. So I was perfectly content with that. I had a situation that happened to me because I didn't let social media cave me in to thinking that I needed to have a long schlong. But I like to keep my penis. Listen, I like to keep my Big Willie in a mystery box, like J.J. Abrams movie. Like nobody. I like to keep it in a sense where it's like, you know, like it's a you know.
I'm sorry, sir, but if you go into your OnlyFans like you want to, that is not a mystery box.
No, but listen, that's money, and there's laws that are behind it that if you move that content and you put it someplace else, I can take more of your money. So it's like at the end of the day, it's like, you know what I mean? Like that's a different story. You know what I mean? But like, I mean, although I also said too that like I wasn't going into like just OnlyFans. I was joking around. I was saying like I was gonna like I said my job right now sucks so badly. I was like I'm about to make a whole damn porno like, straight up like. You know what I mean? I'm about to write, direct, produce, star in like my. We got the lights already.
Couch.
and the
casting couch.
It's a casting sectional. It's the sex show.
On that note.
So on that note, yeah. So social media. I think we're realizing. I think what we've realized in this conversation is
it's so deep, and we could go into multiple episodes.
Yeah, this is part one.
Part 1.
This is part 1. Social media, love, and relationships, part 1.
Part 1.
Social media, part 1. We're going to do part 2 and part 3.
Yeah.
Are we going to do this?
Yeah.
I'm all for this.
Yeah, social media series.
I like parts. So, before we wrap up, we did want to ask you guys a question because we said in the beginning that we would ask you about this. So, we are thinking about possibly making a Patreon where we make other exclusive. This sounds really bad because we talk about OnlyFans.
Yeah, no, it's not like that.
Big Sean's penis.
It's just more explicit, like, talks about certain
things. More explicit, not even just explicit talks, but also too like things where like you'll get to sort of like we'll get to do like games and maybe like some like it'll be
different challenges.
It'll be we are adults after dark. No, I'm joking. But
we are still kids after dark.
We are still kids after dark. Is that what it is? We are still kids on Twitter after dark. Is that what it is? Yeah. So like our idea is maybe to do like different sort of like things like things that will have like we're thinking like different like card games. Obviously there'll be more
personality things and like it'll show really how we feel about certain topics.
Yeah, it'll be like there'll be
it'll
drinking.
Allow us to conversate because on YouTube like they have
consumer
laws, so like we can't.
Yeah, we're thinking about doing something that like even though I would say that we're pretty uncensored here.
Yeah, we are.
But we're thinking about like giving you like the full unrated DVD version of We Are Still. I'm not going to say kids because that's weird to say We Are Still Kids and then say unrated afterwards because I mean oh, but you know what? It is. So let us know like what you think about that, and let us know what you think. It'd be like a little cool thing that we could do, and also give us too like what you would be willing to subscribe to that kind of content for. We know money is tight on everybody right now, so once we kind of have it together and we kind of understand what's going on, we'll run it by you guys and see what you think. Our
audience is the most important.
Yeah, so we also want to do things also too that, if people are willing, like we could, get maybe some of our audience involved and like we can like, definitely like, you can come and you can chill with us. Even though like I'm not that cool, Danielle's fucking cool, but I'm not that cool. And like, and like, I mean, you can hang out with Danielle.
Stop trying to pick me out.
I'm not trying to pick you out. I'm not trying to pimp you out. I didn't say you can hang out with Danielle for an exclusive. Actually, I technically did say you can hang out with Danielle for an exclusive price. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Spotify and Anchor and YouTube for everybody for officially pimping out this beautiful young woman on your services. That's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, we just want to have like some guests and in a more intimate kind of situation, not like on camera, so professional. We want to be more of an
and also too like
party kind of.
Yeah, a little more atmosphere. Like party content, some more kind of atmosphere like that. Things that are a little bit more like, they're something that's a little bit more like less structure, some entertainment value and stuff. Definitely, and a lot of tequila.
No.
A lot of tequila.
He's bugging. He's bugging. He wants to play beer pong with tequila. Please tell him that's an awful idea. That's 10 shots of tequila.
Okay, first of all, I didn't say they would all be tequila. I also said that some of it would be water.
Still, awful idea.
No, you have 5 cups of water and 5 cups of tequila.
Awful idea.
There's no such thing as awful ideas when you're talking about a Patreon. All right? Things get wild, and that's the point.
Awful idea. But anyway, on that note, thank you for watching us.
Yes,
I hope you liked our content and this series that we're about to have. Please like, subscribe, comment, engage with the post. Please comment.
Yes, and make sure to let us know how you feel. Obviously, we've been talking back and forth like we've been having audio issues, but as we're going, we're still evolving, we're still moving. So let us know what you think, and let us know who you'd like to see come on the show as well too, and have a conversation with us. I do too. We have a lot of ideas, and we go back and forth on them. So definitely tell us what you think, like, subscribe, comment, and tell your friends.
Yeah.
Tell your other friends. Tell your friends' friends. Tell your mama. Tell your grandma.
Post it on social media.
All right? Where you stay, where your mama stay, where your grandma stay.
Okay, they get it. All right, you guys have a good night, and we love you, and stay cool.
Yeah, that's right.